Hey y'all, hey, we are back for another review of Sisters. We're on season 7, episode 8, entitled Pins and Needles. So let's just jump right into it. We see Andy and she's in her office, and it seems that she's reconnected with a guy she knows from law school. And he was able to pull some information. She had him do some criminal type background stuff on a couple people, and now he's there to give her, the results of that. He was able to pull some information from Gary's fake passport that she sent, that Penelope sent over to her a couple episodes back. And he warns her, like, before you open this envelope, there is, it's some deep shit in here and I need you to prepare yourself. And I also had to dig really deep, which insinuates that Gary knows somebody that's been able to bury, the stuff pretty deep down. Even so far as he had to call in some favors at the DOJ, Department of Justice, to get the information. And he warns her, listen, you need to run while you still can, because this person that you're dealing with is very, very, very dangerous. So you need to tread lightly, and you need to hurry up and get out of Dodge when it relates to your interactions with Gary. So whatever he was able to dig up is worse than I thought. I didn't think it would get much worse when it comes to Gary, but obviously nothing is impossible when it comes to this fool. So, all right. So he tells her, she also had him look Jordan up, look into that accusation about him. And he tells her, like, hey, Jordan's story actually checks out. He had nothing to do with that little white girl. It was just dirty politics that's happening. So he's good to go. So that's kind of eased her suspicions about Jordan. Fatima comes running in, as Andy's kind of sitting there digesting information. Fatima comes running in and she's like, girl, it's not a good time. And Fatima's like, listen, like somebody's behind her and she needs to kind of warn Andy, to pull it together. It is Miss Marie Willis. And Miss Marie Willis is a philanthropist, a billionaire, like a boss bee, a boss lady that commands, the room. She's a very important person. She's like Oprah status, and she's going in, she's talking to Andy. She tells Andy, like, she needs a divorce lawyer. And one thing, the interesting that I walked in with, I put in my notes, if it's worth mentioning. She walks in and she talks to Andy with what I describe as like a grandmother's warmth. It was like, hey, baby, hey, sugar, like how Monique talks to people without the visceral hatred that Monique tends to have for people. Neither here nor there. Either way, she talks to her kind of like a, hey baby, hey sugar, blah, 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 blah. That type of tone. Andy is flustered, at her sheer presence, being in her office, and she wants to know, like, why are you here? She tells Andy, like, hey, I just left breakfast with Jordan, just to make sure he's not wasting my campaign donations among all the scandal that's going on. So, she has this distant relationship with Jordan. And then she goes on to tell Andy, like, listen, I'm just going to tell you now, I know that you're his girlfriend. But what I will tell you is that, I can spot a liar a mile away. Hell, I've been living with one for 15 years, being her husband that she's there to get a divorce from. He's not lying. Like, I can read people and see that they're lying. And I don't think, he's guilty in the accusations that's going on. And I guess just to kind of further clear up her doubts about, Jordan. And then she goes on to tell Andy, like, hey, I know you tore him a new one. I know whatever. Andy tries to play it down. And she was like, well, if you didn't, then you're not the pit bull I need for this divorce. And, Andy tries to backtrack. She was like, no, we had a stern talking, blase, blase, blah, whatever. She goes on to tell Andy that her husband has had all of his fun, throughout the relationship, and now she wants to return the favor. She wants to have her fun by way of divorcing his ass and making sure that he doesn't see a dime of her money. She tells Andy that, while I appreciate the recommendation for Jordan, you don't have the job yet. You're not hired. I need to basically put you through the gauntlet to make sure you're what I need. You came highly recommended, but I need to vet you first. I need to test your ability to stay ready and to stay 10 steps ahead of these folks, because this is what we have to do. And so I need to see, that you are prepared to, deal with what's going to come with me. So, to be determined, but, I like you so far, but whatever. So we'll see how that goes. So this is going to be the big fish that Andy was able to capture, to kind of give her a shoe in as it relates to the partner position that's open. All right, so Karen and Sabrina, they run into each other at the doctor's office. Sabrina being there to do her egg retrieval, and Karen being there to do the paternity thing to get everything settled with Fatima and Zach. Sabrina is overwhelmed at the egg freezing process. she just, she's real nervous about it, as to be expected. Karen tries to lie about why she was there, claiming she was there for a checkup. And Sabrina's like, well, girl, you just went up there for a checkup a couple weeks ago. Like, what's going on? And she was like, all right, here's the truth. I'm there for the paternity test that Zach asked for, just to clear him and Fatima's doubts. And so, whatever, that's what we're here to do. You got me. Okay. Moving right along. Hayden is being nosy, trying to go into Andy's office while Miss Willis is in there talking to her. And Fatima's trying to run interference, but he's not gonna let up. He's kind of insisting on wondering why she's snooping outside the door, what's going on. And so Miss Willis and Andy comes out, and he wants to know why Miss Willis would even be interested in talking. Well, actually, Fatima told him that Miss Willis was in there, and he's like, well, what in the hell she want with Andy? And so they come out, and and he's trying to suck up and kiss up, and he's like, I'm hating, I'm very important, trying to sell himself to Miss Willis. And Miss Willis is like, sir, pump your brakes, little guy. I don't have time for your sales pitch, so go ahead and get out my face. So she has no time for what he's selling. And that kind of gives Hayden, the inclination, like, hey, this is the big client that's going to give Andy, again, it's going to give Andy the leg up when it comes to, the bid for partner. So he's got to figure out something. So, of course, he's going to go back to Gary to try to get Gary's help on what that's going to look like. All right. Tamara is at a hotel, right? And Gary shows up to see her. Child, it's probably the next damn day after the forbidden kiss, right? And they're both just playing coy in this hotel room, talking about, I know you wanted me. I know you wanted me. Pissing me off. Anyway, these two, after, the little pissing match that they have, they commence to kissing. And then we get all the way to fifth base, right? We're doing what grown folks partaketh in. And you look on the dresser and, they getting down to the get down. And you look on the dresser and it's a pen that appears to be recording. And the pen, once they're done, post-coital bliss, whatever they got going on. And I thought the pen was Gary's because I feel like he's sneaky enough to do that. But turns out the pen that's recorded belongs to Tamara. And so, afterwards, Gary is, big up at himself. Like, I know you wanted me. I'll send you a horse emoji when I want you next time. Hey, no need to know about this. But, basically just kind of talking to her like trash. Like, girl, I didn't know you wanted me anyway. Blah, blah, blah. They back to talking that trash. And he, so she went through all of that to set Gary up, right? I knew that there was some sort of setup situation because in no world would these two have any actual interest in each other. Either way, before Gary leaves, he makes it a point to let her know that, don't let Gary know about this. Also goes on to let her know, like, Hayden don't mean much to me, which, it confirms Tamara's suspicions that Gary ain't nothing. He's nobody's friend. He's nobody's ally. He's probably just using Hayden as he does everybody else within his grasp. So, cool. All of that is fine. But there's only one thing that pisses me off. You had to sleep with him to get that out of him. I don't feel like she had to sleep with him to get that information because, remember, they're pissing back and forth and their words are so visceral. Like, she knows that he did the investigation on her. He knows that she had some sort of FBI investigation. They were at her door. So they know enough about each other. And when Hayden is not, within earshot, they spill everything, their hatred for each other. So I feel like you could have gotten that out of him without actually sleeping with him. Like, I feel like y'all could have just insulted each other into him saying, like, his disgust for Gary. For Hayden, you could have got that out of him verbally. You didn't even have to sleep with him. Like, it was just, I just felt like you wanted to, girl, and you also needed that excuse. Now, my question is, how are you going to present that evidence to Hayden without incriminating yourself? Like, how are you going to do that? Are you going to chop the audio up? How does that work? Because, girl, or do you not give a damn about Hayden either? You just also, like, you willing to go down with the ship in order to throw Gary under the bus? And, that's cool as well. I don't have a problem with that. Anything that hurts Gary and makes him uncomfortable is where I want to be. But, girl, it was just a whole lot to do considering, like, how you kind of begged to be back in Hayden's presence. It was just, it's a lot of sacrifice to set Gary up. I don't know. All right. We move on to Danny, and she's back at therapy. Glad to see that she's, consistently going and attending. And she tells the lady, like, listen, it was basically like she was on pins and needles, ready to get in there and talk and say what's going on. And she tells the lady that her life has been a wreck since the last time she met. She tells her about everything that happened with Tony and the kids. And the therapist tells her, listen, I understand how hard it could be to go from not wanting to be a mom at this moment, like that's not where you were in your mind, in your body or whatever, to being an instant stepmom overnight. It's a big transition, and it's to be expected. Reservations are expected. And Danny, is just weary about the fact that she knows like a lot can go wrong, with kids, and she's afraid that they might hate her. Like she's just afraid of all these things that could potentially happen. And the therapist goes to tell Danny, like, listen, you tend to worry about things that might happen as if they have already happened. Same. This, not them, but me. Same. Same sis, same. And it's something about this Danny therapy thing that's doing it for me. It's doing it for me because it's me and Danny are similar in countenance and personality. And hell, also not in storyline, child. Not verbatim, but like that thing, like you're afraid of things that might happen as if they actually will happen. Same, absolutely me, because that I just am that type of worrier, that type of person that has that reservation, because if your response is what I expected it to be, now I'm validated, in my reservations. Whatever. Not about me, it's about Danny. Either way, so that was a word. That was a word. Her being worried about things that might happen as if they had already happened. Same. That's all I can say. Same, sis, same. And then they're going to do an exercise, and she tells her, use your good imagination. Think about the worst possible scenario that could happen with Tony and the kids, and we'll address them as they come up. Well, as we talk about them. And she says, listen, the kids could hate me, and as a result, her and Tony could break up. She could get attached to them. They could be on like some parent trap type stuff and try to get those parents back together. All these things that could happen. And she's like, okay, let's just start with one of those. And so we're going to talk about the fact that the kids might pull like a parent trap and try to, sabotage Danny and Tony in order for Tony to get back with their mama. And she was like, listen, let's just talk about what's probable and what we can do within our power to avoid them happening, just to kind of eliminate that worry about the outcome of a situation, which, I presume the exercise to be. Now, we don't get the result of the exercise, but it's definitely a good step in the right direction to kind of ease Danny's worries and suspicions about what could possibly happen. Now, I doubt that it's, likely when it relates to Tony and his baby mama, but that doesn't negate the fact that that's how she feels about the situation. So, very good. I think the therapist is a very good thing for Danny at this particular stage, in her emotions and what she's going through. All right. Zach shows up to the paternity test. He's late. He tried his best, but he's late. But he does come with food in hand. Just a nice gesture, just to show Karen that he appreciates her getting this done, and to ease kind of the turmoil that might come with her having to, take the needle and do whatever she needs to do for her part of the paternity. And Karen, we learn in this scene that Karen knows so much about Zach that she knows so much about him and has so much of his information, in her internal memory bank that she's already filled out the paperwork. He just needs to look over it and sign it. He's like, well, don't act like you know me like that. Like, just a little nicety. They're on good terms, just giggling and sniggling or whatever. He confirms, like, the paper look good. And she knows him so well. She knows that he gets horribly terrified of needles. So she needs him to prepare himself. It's going to be a needle. So I need you to start getting your mind right. And so they're just talking and, they're giggling and he all leaned into her and rubbing the baby bump, just giving very much couple, but not really. It was just giving a little bit intimate. And of course, Fatima walks in at this very second and sees him. And Karen's attitude returns immediately, wondering why she's there. And, she's like, I'm here to support my man. Like, I also know him well enough to know that he's afraid of needles. And so this is where I'm at. Who gonna check me? Like she told you last episode, who was going to stop her? You weren't able to, and you still didn't. Yeah. So Karen and Zach get along as long as Fatima is not present. And then Fatima and Zach get into this little back and forth banter where she's like, where Zach is apologizing to Karen. He was like, I thought she wasn't coming, I'm sorry, or whatever. And Fatima's like, well, is it a problem? is talking exactly, is it a problem? He's like, no, I'm not saying it's a problem. Let's just talk about it when we get home. Yeah, because don't portray to Karen that I'm an inconvenience, like I'm a problem. I said I wasn't going to come. I changed my mind. I wanted to be in support. Now I'm here. What's up? What is it? So yeah, we're just going to keep going through this till we can figure out the paternity of these damn twins, but we'll talk about it. All right. So Andy goes to see Jordan, and she's all over him. She thanks him for the referral to Miss Willis, so we're going to start with that. She also came to apologize. She tells him, like, listen, Miss Willis, doesn't believe, that you're guilty, so she confirmed that, but she also tells him, like, listen, I utilized some of my sources, and they were also able to confirm that your story checks out. And, he wanted to be honest. He was like, listen, just moment of truth. I feel as if you trusted their words over mine, and I expected for my words to hold a little more weight than everybody else's. And of course, now she has to apologize again. But she did let him know, like, listen, I just needed to be sure because, I have a tendency to develop this fantasy, when I'm in deep with these men, and I just needed to know that I wasn't enthralled in my fantasy so much so that I missed, a red flag or what could potentially be true. So, not to negate how you feel. That's how you feel. That's your business. But I had to do my own thing to, my impartial check to be sure that I'm not being naive in this thing. It's the gist of what she's saying. And I'm not mad at her. I am not mad. I understand that you would want your words to hold a lot of weight, but I don't know why time is a big thing with me. It just is what it is. Again, all of y'all are 4 months into these new things. And so, 4 months may seem like a whole lot of time. It's not to me. So I don't think y'all have been, as a matter of fact, y'all been honeymoon staging for a lot of this thing. All y'all been doing is knocking boots and cooking dinner, child. Y'all have not experienced anything of substance that would test y'all like, well, shit, I don't know. So sorry. I don't know. The whole Penelope Gary situation was pretty big. But that was independent of you guys. That wasn't directly related to you guys' relationship. So this is y'all's first big test. And again, while it would have been nice for your word to hold some weight, it's giving trust but verify. Like at this point, you don't have enough skin in the game for your word to hold that kind of weight. That's the gist. That just is what it is. Moving right along. Hayden goes to Gary's office because he been trying to call him all day and, he ain't been able to get him. And Gary's jumpy, child. Of course, he nervous, sweating a little bit because, sir, why are you here? Hayden sees some bite marks on his neck and he's like, listen, Gary tries to blame it on Penelope and Hayden is just fucking oblivious as normal. He was like, listen, yeah, Tamara be putting, hickeys on me or putting marks on me too all the time. So I know how you doing, player. Sir, you deserve it. I don't even feel bad for Hayden. I don't care. Hayden is there to ask for help at work. He tells Gary about Miss Willis likely working with Andy, and it turns out that Gary happens to have a pre-existing relationship with Miss Willis. And Gary's like, don't tell me you knocking her down too. And he's like, nah, it ain't even that. She invested in me, when I first started out, and we've kept in touch throughout the years. And so I'm going to have a talk with Miss Willis, and let her know exactly who she's dealing with in Miss Andy Barnes. And so now he's going to try to play a hate and try to snatch that lady's client from up under her, unfortunately. So that's what we're going to have to deal with. Moving along, Andy calls Fatima and tells her that Gary pinned all this stuff on Jordan and that's pretty much only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Gary. And she's going to invite him over to her house that night and she's going to confront him. And Fatima reminds her, listen, I know you want to invite him to your house, but that's where all the fatal attraction stuff goes down in these people's homes. So you're going to need an ally. So you're not going to confront him by yourself. I'm going to go home and I'm going to get the beat up bag and I'm going to see you. I'm going to go home and get my tennis shoes, my Vaseline, and my blade. And I'll see you at the house. And Fatima, same. You don't let nobody confront somebody as hostile as Gary alone in their home. That's normally how shit goes down. Like, girl, don't you remember, like, Gary almost squoze you to death not that long ago? Couple seasons ago. You should not want to be alone with Gary in no instance. But, Andy is the misbenefit of the doubt when it comes to Gary. So, right. And so in this scene, she did tell Fatima, like, it's going to be at my house. Gary not crazy. Basically, like, Gary not going to try that with me. Girl, yes, he will. He will. He has, and he shall. What are you talking about? Either way, I digress. We're going to move on. Gary gets to Andy's and she's standing there with a mean mug. She ain't got time for the niceties, the hey, how you doing? None of it. And he's so brave. He walks in with his little suit on, talking trash, talking about, oh, I know you couldn't stay away from me. And so Fatima pops out the back with her whoop bag. And she's standing there like, Andy, you better get him. Because if I go in this bag, you know my bag heavy. If I go in the bag, it's going to be a problem. And so Andy confronts him about stalking her and asks him, like, why are you so obsessed with me? Like, what's good? What's the problem? And confronts him about the Jordan allegations and tells him, like, listen, I got the paperwork. I got the proof. And what you need to do is you need to leave both of us alone before I spill everything that I know in this envelope to not only, you know, the world, but to the FBI. And I know you know what I know. So you know I'm not playing with you. So he real quiet. First time ever. You know, he feels very much like there's been a checkmate, but you know he gonna hold his head. He ain't gonna take it on the chin. And she tells him, you leave leave Jordan alone. He doesn't deserve this. And she also, my girl, Andy made me proud this morning because she was willing to go down with the ship. She tells Gary, listen, I will ruin you and me before I let you destroy him because he does not deserve this. And I felt that was honorable because, you know, it's given, you know, secondhand rollover just by being in a relationship with you. So I appreciated the little sacrifice or whatever. And she also warns him, like, leave Penelope alone also, or again, I'm gonna spill all this information. And he's trying to, you know, hold safe face. I go, you don't got no evidence. But he definitely went quietly. He definitely went with his head down. So I know it didn't work because it's Gary, but I can dream, right? Okay. All right. So Karen is getting the ultrasound done, child. And the lady pulls out what appears to be a 5-foot damn needle. And the lady shows her, and she was like, I thought it was going to be smaller than that. She was like, you ain't look it up? She was like, yes, I did look it up beforehand, but I didn't think it was going to be that dramatic. Like, girl, maybe I should wait until after the baby's born. And the doctor is like, no, because this pending DNA thing is a high stress for you, and you don't need that type of stress right now. So we're going to keep moving. And so the lady shows her the ultrasound, and it looks to us like there's 2 babies in there. Karen wasn't paying attention at this moment, and so she's like, listen, can I hear the heartbeat? And the doctor was confused because all of her ultrasounds up until now have only showed 1 baby, but this one appears to have 2. And then the doctor goes on to tell Karen that there are 2 different sacs, so they both need to be tested. So in my unmedical opinion, let me tell you what 2 sacs mean. So, twins. You can have them in the same little sac fluid, or you could have them in 2 separate little sac fluids. Embryos, I don't know the correct term, but you could have, like, so for example, for identical twins, they would be in the same little sac circle thing, right? When they embryos or whatever the hell they are. Don't get me being technical because I don't know. Or you could have them, they could be in their own little separate little cocoons, right? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. If they're in 2 separate sacs, that is how you get fraternal twins, because they're not identical, they're not in the same sac, blah, blah, blah. But what also could happen when you're in 2 separate little cocoon sac things, right, is that you could have 2 separate daddies. And I've seen it on the internet before where, you know, twins can be twins, fraternal or whatever, and have 2 separate daddies. And I feel like this is what they're trying to get us to believe in this scene. So Karen got twins, and they in 2 separate sacs, which means at a minimum, they're fraternal, so they're not identical. And at a maximum, they got 2 separate daddies, and there's more drama to come. So that is it. That's how we finished out the episode. I'm sure we'll get more into it next week. Let me know what you think about the episode. It's been season 7, episode 8. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.